What is up, everybody? This is your host, Christopher Rennie, reminding you to follow me on Twitter at ChrisRennieCFB for all sports updates, as well as any update on the content that I put out and produce. Also, subscribe to the podcast and rate the show. It's helpful, it's fun, it looks good for me, and more people will listen to the show because of it. So do your part, help me out. Today we are getting into the coronavirus. This is my first time talking about this in a while, but it has taken a pretty rapid toll on my favorite sport, as well as my fantasy football team. So we're going to get into it. We're also going to get into the MLB Playoffs. What signs did the Dodgers show that could have given us warning they're going to hammer the Braves in their next game? Then lastly, we're going to talk about the best and worst in the NFL, as well as some other NFL storylines. As always, thanks for coming and enjoy the show. I can't do this anymore. What's this guy saying? Who gave these national radio hosts these jobs? Jeez. Can't even understand that guy. What's he even talking about? I can't take it anymore. Those national media personalities making you feel like that. Make a change. Listen to this idiot about the sports that matter from the opinion that matters. Haha, you said it, not me. Now for today's takes from the most opinionated host in sports talk. So there's been some big news surrounding college football. It is no surprise, but unfortunately, it is the reality of the world we're living in. Over the last few weeks, we've been able to witness games with fans. We've been able to see Texas A&M go to 25% capacity. I put air quotes up when I said that. You know, in the NFL, the Browns have filled their capacity to a very limited 12,000. It doesn't even really look like 12,000, so that's why when you think about Texas A&M and how many people were actually there, it doesn't seem really that realistic that it was only 25% at Kyle Field. Kyle Field is pretty big, but, I mean, come on. Now, with this issue, you know, the NBA did an unbelievable job with the bubble. You know, the MLB's done a great job so far of limiting their players' exposures, and now they're in a bubble. The NFL is considering doing some level of a bubble for the playoffs, which I think would be intelligent. I think that should be the same with college football as well. So, realistically, as time moves forward, what is going to be the way that this is taken upon? Because in the NFL, they've already done a really big batch of rescheduling. And when you look at how many rescheduled games there are, a lot of teams have had their season completely altered due to how many rescheduled games there have been. So when you look at the rescheduling guide that they've put out, they've had to put out entire guides because how much has been affected by this. So it's been absolutely ridiculous. You know, so the Titans, they got moved to Tuesday. The Texans game for the Titans is week 6, and the Pittsburgh Steelers week 7. A rescheduled game from week 4. Week 4 became the Titans bye week. So, you know, it's really something to keep an eye on because eventually they're going to be running out of spaces to put these games. And unfortunately, it's not the teams that are managing this well that are going to be affected. There is a level of lackadaisical non-caringness for other teams that are putting these teams that are doing the right things at risk. And it's unfortunate because there are circumstances that it's like major circumstantial stuff that affects the other teams that they're playing. It's a very, very selfish of a team, but it's obviously also not completely their fault. When you decide to take the route to letting fans in the game, you're already adding risk. We saw that with the SEC. Texas A&M, Florida just played there in front of, I want to say, at least 50,000 people. I don't think I am underselling that. I think Texas A&M was lying about attendance figures. I think we will get down to the bottom of this. But now Florida has 20 positive COVID-19 tests. Now, I don't know what those players were doing. I don't know if they went out and enjoyed themselves after their loss to Texas A&M. I mean, I know I wouldn't. But if that's the case, we've all seen the pictures of Alabama. We've all seen the lack of spread between those people. There's no 6 feet apart in Alabama. There's bars, and they're going. And Bama's playing football, so they are drinking. And Bama's winning football, so they are close and doing Alabama things. So it's just, odds are it's going to spread. We were told that there was going to be a second wave. It wasn't going to be as strong, but it was still going to be a thing. And now we're in a second wave, and we really never beat the first wave. So the NFL is going to be mightily affected. The college football landscape is going to be very effective. Are there any easy solutions? I really am not sure. Everyone roasted the college football teams who waited. The Big Ten, the Pac-12. But unfortunately, as much as we hastily reacted and were all upset that Ohio State and that the Big Ten, us Nebraska fans, us Pac-12 fans were like, God, how is everybody else playing? How are we not playing? And I think realistically it's going to allow the Big Ten to learn from the mistakes the SEC have made and implement rules and regulations that are going to provide the players the best circumstances to get their season across. And I think the NFL needs to take the time and do that as well. They are sort of taking this as, if you test positive, we're going to keep testing until you're not positive, and if too many people test positive, then we'll think about moving the game. That is sort of the NFL's approach. But what we've seen is how rapidly this disease spreads. We're going to save the debates for how effective and how dangerous this disease is for young people and athletes. We're going to save that argument. I'm not here for that. The facts are it has spread very effectively and very quickly. And in a place where players are tightly congested, it is really, really asking a lot for a whole NFL team to let a guy, practice. He might not be showing symptoms, but he might have had a positive, but he hasn't had 2 positives, which is the be-all, end-all for this. Once you get that second positive, you're done for 10 days, they're saying, or until you have consecutive days without positive testing. So really, it just seems like the protocol in the NFL is what Jason McCourty said. It's to get games played. For Jason McCourty, or whichever McCourty twin said it, I would understand the complaining, but if you were so afraid of the plan, you could stop playing and you could give up your paycheck. That is the truth. The McCourtys have made quite a bit of money. Not everyone has that ability, Not everyone's been an all-pro safety. It's just not the same for everybody. And there's people in the NFL, I know it, that just don't even believe this thing is real, number one. Look at the Raiders. You know how many of those people weren't wearing masks? I know Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a traditional guy. He is probably a believer in some levels of conspiracies. You see the eyeliner he wears? I don't think he thinks it's real. I really don't. He's wearing the mask because he's told to. And that is the truth. And I think a lot of players in the NFL are doing that. It is not like Dwight Howard in the bubble, where he actually had a pretty good point. You're testing all of us every day. We are in a bubble away from everybody else, and everybody in here is tested every day. And there's no positive test in here at all. So what would the point of me wearing a mask be? That was Dwight Howard's sentiment. And I kind of agreed with that one. But if you are going to be going to charity events, if you are going to be in front of a crowd, if you are going to be around people, you should probably wear a mask if you want your season to continue. And that is sort of the battle that the NFL is having. And what's it going to be when you've got the whatever Jets? Are they still going to even want to play football for Adam Gase? Maybe they go and start testing positive for the coronavirus on purpose. They just try to find people with it so they don't have to play for the Jets anymore. And that's a joke. That is a joke. But really, it's just, at the end of the day, what do you want from these people? We want them to follow the protocol so we can watch football. As simple as that. And I don't think the NFL is doing a good enough job of keeping the players safe as well. So it's got to be a balance. And, you can't be scared to postpone a game. The NBA postponed their season, came back, finished it. It's fine. It's the year we're living in. We've experienced it. We know what it's like. If you need to have if too many teams start testing it, we just throw a 2-week bye week in the middle, let everyone sort of figure it out, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're back. We're still testing every day. We're still doing all of that stuff. And then at the end, you have 2 weeks after week 17 where teams can play the games they missed. So you're not going to miss any games. You're not going to cut the schedule down to 13, 14, but some teams, they're roasting the Titans right now. In 3 months, or not 3 months at this rate, in like a month and a half, it could be your team that has no tests positives. And you could be like, oh my God, what are we going to do? There's no time to change. We already passed our bye week. So we need to come up with legit solutions as soon as possible for the possibility that more teams than just the 3 or 4 that have been affected by it have the ability to make up their games. So, yes, that is exactly what we need to do, is just find a solution. You heard mine. At a week and a half, 2-week bye week, bring back, call it the restart. Bring the week back with a Thursday night game, a Friday night game, a Sunday night game, all the games, a Monday night game, and then you just get all your games in prime time. You come back, everyone's like, ooh, kumbaya, the NFL's back. And then, yes, we're past COVID. And then we just keep doing what we're doing, test every day, social distance, all the things you hear in the news, and we'll get through a football season. I don't think it's complicated. Now, in college football, some of those coaches in the South are crazy. I think the SEC, with what some of them are doing, Dan Mullen said to fill the stadium. I don't know. I don't know what Dan Mullen's thinking. There was 25% capacity. Quote, air quotes again. His team got like 20 people on it that have it. And all these people are probably going to be fine. So that really takes more. Nothing will be as bad as that one doctor releasing a false report about coronavirus and myocarditis so the Big Ten couldn't play. That was arguably top 10 dick moves of all time. But I digress. Alrighty, so, when you look at these teams that have been screwed over, their schedule's all been moved around. It sucks, but there's bigger fish to fry, and it's the MLB Playoffs. So the Los Angeles Dodgers were sort of dead in the water in the first 2 games, all right, against the Braves. So when you look at the series totals, it was pretty much Dodgers-Braves. The Braves are pretty much running away with this thing. It was very well done for them. Game 1, they came up huge in the last inning. They dominated all of Game 2. And then the Dodgers, this is what I was talking about in the intro. So the Dodgers came back and won 15-3 yesterday to get the series to 2-1. They are a very talented baseball team, arguably the most talented the game's seen in the last 5 years. They're healthy for once in their franchise's history, it feels like. And, they lost 8-7, but they had a pretty big rally in the ninth inning. They scored 4 runs in the bottom half. And, a lot of people sort of just looked over at it and they're like, well, that's just the Dodgers' luck. That's just the Braves historically in the playoffs blowing leads. But what I saw that as was a sign. Like, okay, the Dodgers, they got their bats going a little bit this game. It was a little late. 3 runs in the 7th, 4 runs in the 9th. A little late, you asked a lot of your hitters when you have 8 runs on the board. Now, the Rays are not the Braves. The Braves are a team that hammers the baseball. There is no questions about it. The Braves are home run hitters. They need to be the team that I honestly, the thing is, once the Dodgers went up 11-0, I'm like, this game's not over. This game's not over by any means. But the Dodgers came and they played team baseball. They hit the ball like they're supposed to, even better than they're supposed to, and they came up big. Now, I'm not going to be the guy who's going to be looking at this game as the change of the story. This could alter the season completely. The Dodgers can go on a 4-game run. They could have just destroyed the confidence of the Braves, but I think the Braves are too young and talented for that type of thing. I still think this series is going to be a grinded-out series. But it is a scary thing for the rest of the 3 teams remaining, the Braves and whoever they end up playing, or whoever the Dodgers may end up playing in the World Series, if they do, in fact, get there. The Dodgers are hitting the baseball, all right? You look at their stats yesterday, it was a game where everyone hit. I'm pretty sure the first 2 times I looked down, it felt like Cody Bellinger had a home run. The Dodgers are playing like what they have paid so much money to do. So it's looking good for them. I really think the Dodgers, my friend said it earlier this year. I said, I don't know, man, history. And history would say they lose that game somehow. And I think most Dodgers fans can agree with me. So I'm looking at how well the Dodgers hit right now on the interweb. So you had Mookie Betts, 1 for 3. Great. He had a walk. He scored twice. Kike Hernandez came in, got a hit. Corey Seager, 3 hits, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored. Justin Turner, 1 hit. Max Muncy, 2 hits, big game. Cody Bellinger, 2 hits. Jack Peterson came in, got 4 hits. Jack Peterson got 4 hits. And Rios and the bottom of the order, they did their thing too. But they scored 11, 1, and 3. They scored 15 runs in the first 3 innings. And then their pitching showed up today. And Urias and Kenley and Baez and Wood did great jobs, kind of getting in and out. I think this was a game Kenley Jensen needed to have the low-pressure situation. Just go out there, pitch a little bit. Because, eventually he is going to be called upon to pitch a huge inning. And he is going to have to be the Kenley Jensen of old if the Dodgers are going to want to move on and win a title. It's their time, they're due, all those things. They've been here before. You hear all those old adages, you hear all those sayings, and you're like, but it is the Dodgers, all right? And the Braves are young, and they are fiery. And of all the teams I think would kind of just fall apart because of this, I look at their roster. Ronald Acuna is a big star. Freddie Freeman, the most steady player in baseball. Marcell Ozuna, just a big-time hitter. Ozzie Albies, Just a star, dude. Dansby Swanson, a solid baseball player. They are a team of young guys who are confident, and that to me would kind of still be a little scary if I'm a Dodgers fan. So, really, this series can go either way. I don't think this game was a pivotal turning point, but I do think there are some warning signs for the Braves that the Dodgers were going to start hitting. And now tonight, they got Clayton Kershaw. So, if we get regular season Kershaw, I think the Braves might be a little bit of trouble here. But if we get playoff Kershaw, I think the Braves are going to handle their business. All right, now on the other side, you've got the Rays up 3-1. This is just God doing his work. 2 games ago, Altuve had an error, and then the floodgates just opened. It was just one of those beautiful things. But last night, Greinke pitched a gem. They're as much as we love to hate on the Astros, they are a very well-constructed baseball team. They cheated. That's all true. But top to bottom, their roster's still pretty good. George Springer had himself a day yesterday, and the Rays bat sort of came up a little short. But I think this is one of those games, they went up against an elite level starting pitcher. You knew that if you didn't get on him early, which is Greinke's sort of big fault, is if you get on him early, you usually can get him out. You can get him flustered, but Greinke, he stuck to it. He looked like the Kansas City Greinke, the superstar, and it was a solid watch. So he has been really good in the postseason for the most part. I'd say he's had some good games. He's had some tough games, but when you have a starting pitcher like Greinke, you sort of just need him to put out a good effort. He's done that not once, not twice, but 3 times. So, yeah, I think the Rays are going to close this thing out tonight. I really do. I don't think the Astros really have the bats without the trash cans to do it. I think the Rays are probably going to score 7 or 8 tonight. If I was a betting man, I would say I'd bet the Rays to close out tonight, and I would not bet on that Dodgers-Braves game. I think you are in to an unpredictable sort of you just don't know what direction that game's going to go. There's not a single good bet in the Dodgers-Braves game. I think you just bet the Tampa Bay Rays. You bet them, you bet the spread or the money line. Doesn't matter to me. I just think you bet them to win. So that's going to be it for baseball today. I think the Rays at 3-1. They have a little room, but I know they've seen it in sports history. That team that goes up 3-1 keeps falling short, keeps falling apart. It happens so frequently in sports now. You got to have some eyes. You got to put the pressure on yourself to close it out. You can't be thinking, if we don't win this one, we got 2 more. Because all of a sudden, those 2 more turn into 4-3, and then it's ball game, and you're over, and you're sent home, and you're like, what the hell happened? That is the truth. So, looking at the rest of the MLB, I think it's going to be Braves, Rays. I think I predicted that after last round, and that was mostly because of fanship to those 2 teams. I read a great article about the Rays. They are a team that balances Moneyball and who they spend on. So their payroll changes as needed. So I tell everyone this. The Indians went with a bunch of UDFA'd guys. All right, or not, yeah, they were waived, they were just guys, DFA, designated for assignment, and the Indians picked them up and said, let's throw that outfield out there. We've got all these young guys in the system. Some might not be traditional outfielders, but they can hit the ball, We're pretty set at shortstop and third base. Our best 2 prospects are third base and shortstops. So, who was our second baseman? He was all right, Cesar Hernandez. But what the Rays did so well was they trusted their youth. They trusted their farm system, and they trusted those guys. But they also filled out their roster with very solid pieces that hit the ball. They didn't get guys who were just really good at fielding. Delino to Shields. They went out and got guys who could mash a little bit. They took a money ball approach to it, and it's really working out for them because they are really good at, number one, developing their talent in-house, and number two, finding supplemental players who aren't expensive but can make a difference in a postseason series. That is the challenge with mid-market to low-market teams in baseball, and the Rays have done a phenomenal job at it this year and the last couple of years, better than anybody, and that's why they're in this position right now. This is why when you look at the Indians, who have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball, they fell short. This is why when you look at the Astros without the trash can, they're down 3-1. They spend a lot more money now. They have sort of flipped the switch. They're not really a mid-market team anymore, but the point still stands. The Rays are a great baseball team because of very good management. And that, to me, that's why baseball's awesome. You got the Dodgers who are spending a lot of money. You got the Braves kind of in the middle. You got the Rays who spend almost no money. And then you got the Astros who are kind of on the upper side now but used to be a lower market team. So I'm excited to see how this all unfolds. It's really been a good postseason to watch. But it's going to be a treat. Last night, in honor of LeBron James, I made it back out on the basketball court. Some hero, shout out to whoever it was, I don't know, did some vigilante justice. I don't know how they got the lights to come on, but we played basketball last night in public at a court with other people. And it was amazing. It felt like I was back to normal. And you know what? I got hot. And, it just, everything I threw up turned to gold. And I have vouchers for that. It was one of those days where if I put up a shot, it was probably going in. And I'm going to keep living life like that because that's how it should be. I'm probably going to play basketball this weekend now. Maybe next week. But as long as the hand's still hot, I'll play basketball every day. That's just the truth. But there's some bad going on in the world, and it's bad football. You look at the NFL standings, and there are some terrible teams. So I'm doing an NFL best and worst today, and it's going to be it could be long, could be short, but I'm going to look at some of the best teams in the NFL, some of the worst teams in the NFL, and a couple of the biggest surprises to me, and why. All those are the way that they are. So it's really fun. This is the first quarter of the season's over. We're moving on. The Browns are good at football. We talked about that on the last episode of the Chris Rennie Show. But there are some teams, and when I look at the standings, I really see 4 or 5 teams that are legit Super Bowl contenders right now. So, right now, I think the best team in football is the Seattle Seahawks. I think when you look at what they are accomplishing right now, they are 5-0. They're in a pretty good division. Russell Wilson is playing quarterback like I have never seen. He got moved to the 99 club in Madden, whatever that means to you now. But when you look at their defense, it's playing a lot better this year. Russell Wilson's winning games, those 50-50 games like last week against the Vikings. Could have gone either way. He ended up winning it. DK Metcalf's looking like the best wide receiver in the league right now. Someone compared him to Megatron. I kind of don't see it, but I don't think he's near the route runner as Megatron, but he's just as good of a physical specimen. So when you look at the stats, what is defining the Seahawks season? I'd say the first stat is Russell Wilson's QBR. Russell Wilson has always been an elite quarterback the minute he walked into the league. He has not started to get his credit till recently, though, when he sort of, carried them last year. The defense was not very good last year. It was pretty young. But they have rebuilt, and it has really changed what they look like on the football field. I think when you look at the team, they're rushing well with Chris Carson. They have a pretty good backfield with what they're doing. And when you look at some of the more telling stats, there really are. I mean, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, they've been elite this year. Greg Olsen, at 35 has been a very solid tight end on his targets he's received. Chris Carson's been good out of the backfield, and Will Disley's been a solid number 2 tight end. So they have really good options. They've been really good at spreading the ball around, at least Russell Wilson has. When you look at the defensive side of the ball, you've got a ton of guys. KJ Wright has really shown that he is a legit linebacker. Bobby Wagner has shown that without the Legion of Boom, the linebackers were really a big role in that. Shaquille, Trey Flowers, they've been very good football players. Jamal Adams is looking like one of the best pickups when he has played. He has been absolutely elite at his position. I think we all knew that. But he really kind of reestablished that Seattle Seahawks defense. And most of the time, it's been pretty good for the guys who have had to fill in. I got a good friend I played with when I was younger on the team, and Cody Barton. He's been awesome to watch on a team that's doing this well. So really, it's going to be a heck of a year to watch the rest of the way with the Seahawks. I'm excited for them 100%. The next team on the list, I think I'm going to have to stay in the NFC. I think when you look at the Green Bay Packers, they have been the exact same team as the Seattle Seahawks. Really, it's been really awesome this year for the Packers. 4-0, first in the NFC North. Matt LaFleur is looking like a really good coach. Their defense is looking much better than I think many of their fans anticipated. For not having Devontae Adams for a good portion of this season, they have really done a great job with the receivers they've had. We just need Marquez Valdes-Scantling to play a little bit more. So Aaron Rodgers has been absolutely elite. 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns, no interceptions. The fact that Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers are still improving should be scary for the rest of the league. Aaron Jones is still one of the best running backs in the league. He is big time for sure. Jamal Williams has been good too. They have found receiving help top to bottom every single week. Alan Lazard was big. Marquez Valdes-Scantling had a big game. They're just a team that's winning football games with what they have. And that, to me, is what shows the best teams in the league. I think the NFC's got the 2 best teams in the league right now. I think after last week, the Vikings, or not the Vikings, unfortunately, the Packers and the Seahawks have proven that they're the 2 best teams in the league, bar none. I think they haven't shown any weaknesses. I think they really have the most strengths as well. So those are the 2 teams. If I had to pick to win a Super Bowl right now, those are the 2 teams, and they have to go through each other. So we'll see how that goes. Moving along, you've got the... We'll move to the AFC for this one. You got the Baltimore Ravens. Now, yes, I'm ranking the Baltimore Ravens a little higher than Kansas City. Why, you may ask? Am I crazy? Am I a guy who doesn't know what he's talking about? Maybe. I wouldn't say that, though. I think the Ravens, since their loss to Kansas City, they bounced back. They showed that they're starting to find their way a little bit. Defensively, they're going to keep getting better. And if the defense can keep improving, I can tell you one thing. The Baltimore Ravens are going to find their way offensively, and they're going to be a scary football team. I think when you look at what they did with Patrick Queen, Marlon Humphreys playing like a defensive player of the year, Lamar Jackson's figuring it out. I think they've got a really good stable of running backs. I think their weakness comes at the receiver position and getting consistently out there. But they've got a guy like Mark Andrews who can kind of make up for it on big third down. So the Ravens are a team that are built to win a lot of games. I think they're still going to win a lot of games. I think they're going to win the AFC North, and that's coming from a Browns fan. But I think that game against the Chiefs was a little bit more fluky. I think it was just some early season nerves. And I think by the end of the year, they're going to be a team that is capable of beating the Kansas City Chiefs. And right now, I think they're better at football. Am I being reactionary due to the nature of what happened last week to the team on next on my list, the Kansas City Chiefs, number 4? They are a really good football team. They start and stop with Patrick Mahomes, and that has been the case against the Raiders. A lot of their weaknesses showed. An inconsistent running game, an inability to make a stop when another offense is rolling, and the defense learned that Patrick Mahomes, when he's not perfect, is stoppable. So, really, when the defense plays that poorly, and the Raiders were able to just bottle them up enough, and, even until the end of that game, you still felt the Chiefs had a chance. It still showed so many weaknesses for the Chiefs. I think they moved down the list a lot. I think before that Raiders game, they were a definitive one to me. I thought they were untouchable. I thought even when they were sloppy, they weren't beatable. But they've been sloppy the last couple of weeks. They've lost now, and I think their armor has been punctured. So I think there is some level, not of worry, but I don't think they are as good as they were last year, is what I should say. So my last team on the good list, it's going back, and this is going to the Tennessee Titans. They've struggled to get along this year, but, they're 4-0. They are looking like they are on the right path back to the AFC Championship game. They're running the ball extremely well. Ryan Tannehill played an excellent game of quarterback on Tuesday night. It was one of those games where you sort of were like, holy crap, this team hasn't played in 10 days. They've practiced 3 times, and they're still beating teams down like that. Yeah, so I think the Tennessee Titans, defensively, I think they've got 2 very good corners. I think they have Derrick Henry, who is an absolute workhorse, bell cow back, who can rack up the fantasy points, but they're going to live and die by Ryan Tannehill in the postseason. It's how it's always going to be. Yes, Derrick Henry can do what Derrick Henry does, but at the end of the day, you're going to need elite level quarterback play. Ryan Tannehill's shown he can, but will he be able to long term? That is hard to say because it's been inconsistent in the past. So now we're going to take it and look at the worst teams in the league. All right. So for me, the worst team in the league, we're going to start not the least worst to worst, okay? So we've got the whole AFC, the NFC East, okay? The Cowboys at 2-3 are the worst 2-3 team in football. The Eagles at 1-3-1 are the worst 1-3-1 team in football. The Washington football team at 1-4-0 are the worst offensive team I think I've ever seen. It is absolutely anemic. And the New York Giants could throw an argument in at the bottom of the worst teams in football. We'll get to that maybe in a few. But there is worse teams in the NFC East. They are so bad at football, but I had to bring them out, single them out. So the next worst teams on my list are the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now I'm doubling up these guys. They're in the AFC South. That's not why. I think both these teams are bad, but they still have the ability to turn it around. I think you have Deshaun Watson in Houston. I think the Jaguars and Duval have a fun culture that I think you can get behind. They're going to need Gardner Minshew to be a little bit better. And, it came out. They were exciting this year at the start. The Jaguars, they've played a very tough schedule. They've had the Titans. The Dolphins ran right through them. Okay, never mind. Their schedule has not been that tough, actually. I don't know who I was thinking of. And the Texans. 4 bad teams, okay, minus the Titans, okay. So, yes, after that Titans game, they barely lost. It has not looked good. Once you lose to the Bengals, that's pretty much writing your season off. And I think the Jaguars are, if not one of the worst team in football right now. Yes, I know there's 0-5 teams, but one of those 0-5 teams has Julio Jones. So they're bad. They are so bad, the Jaguars. And it's unfortunate, but I really hope Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields does not go to Duval County. No offense to Duval County. I just think when you get that level of talent of a player down in Jacksonville, it's wasted. We have so many historical franchises in the league, so many teams that could really benefit. I think there's some places I'd really like to see them. Both of them would be awesome for the Falcons. The next worst team on my list, though, the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins has not done the you like that thing yet. I still think they go 10-6. I just have that gut feeling. If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, well, it's the Vikings and Kirk Cousins. So that's what I love about them. The Vikings are probably the third worst team in football. This is a very unorganized segment. It's okay. We're just talking about teams that are bad. Just enjoy it. We love talking about the bad guys. We love talking about the good guys, but the bad guys need some hate. The Minnesota Vikings have been awful this year. They have not done much to prove it. Dalvin Cook's been good. Kirk Cousins has had a few solid games. That's pretty much the Viking season. Their defense has been okay. They're 1-4. The San Francisco 49ers the last couple weeks have looked awful. But the two worst teams in the league, all right, and they are not turning it around. There's no hope for them. The Atlanta Falcons and the New York Giants. The New York Giants were the worst team in the league before Saquon got hurt, but the Falcons have shown an ineptitude to fix the problems they have. I don't know how they keep blowing leads. The Falcons can easily be 3-2 right now, but they're 0-5, and that to me shows worst team in football vibes. I don't think they're going to go 0-16. I think if any team in the league is going to go 0-16 this year, it's for sure the Giants. But the Falcons, I think, are the worst team. We expected it from the Giants, and when you have that expectation, usually the team lives up to it. The Falcons, to me, are worse than the Jets. They are worse than the Giants because of their just inability to win football games, change what's been broken, and so many other warning signs. I think the Jets are in a league of their own when it comes to being bad this year. I don't even want to really harp on it any more than everyone else has. JTS, Jets. The S stands for suck. I don't think that's great. I think the Jets are awful. They're the actual worst team. But I just needed to give my hate to the Falcons. I think you have a former MVP at quarterback. You have Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, elite wide receivers. You have a very good offensive line. Your defense is it's an above average defense. So what are we missing here in the NFL? What are the Falcons missing? They should not be 0-5. They should not have the same record as the Jets and the Giants, who are so bad that people cannot withstand making jokes about them. So I really just don't. I think the Falcons are the worst team right now because their expectations were to compete for a division title, and they are doing the complete opposite of that. It's not like their division isn't winnable. They're only 3 games back. If they hit like a 6-game, 7-game win streak, they will be in the battle at the end. If they can get to 6-6, 6-7 with 3 games to go, 9-7 can get them into the playoffs, and I don't think they'll be able to do it because they're the worst team in football. Will they finish the worst team in football? Absolutely not. I think that's reserved for 2 teams in New York. But right now, to me, they are the worst team in football. They have not shown any semblance of an ability to win. Yes, the Jets have a minus 86 point differential. Yes, the Jets, they can't even beat. I don't even know. I don't know if there's any good analogies for that anymore. But yeah, no, it's bad. There's some bad teams. But the biggest surprise of the year, and it's the Cleveland Browns at 4-1, and you guys all knew I was going to bring that up. They're going to be 5-1. They're beating the Steelers this weekend. I'm calling it now. Go Browns. So I think that'll be it for today. We don't really have much other stuff to talk about. The Monday show's more loaded. We already talked about LeBron. There was no championship parade. So I'm not going to do the Jordan debate. That's cheap. I think it's cheap television. I think it's cheap debate. I am going to be on the side that LeBron's the greatest player to ever do it. He can do more things. He's had a longer peak. And he's been to the finals 10 times. He's won 4 of them. It's fine. The old guys are never going to say, oh, yeah, LeBron's now better. Stephen A. Smith said it himself. There's nothing LeBron can do to be better than Michael Jordan. Stephen A. for you. A special guest, Stephen A. Smith. But it's just cheap TV. It's cheap radio. It's cheap. I think there's so much more that's fun to talk about. I like talking about current stuff, not these logical, cultural debates that are never going to change anyone's opinion. The 90s was not a good era of basketball. I don't want to hear any of that. I think you look at advanced analytics, the 80s were even better than the 90s. So it's just, there's so many fallacies these old dudes have when it comes to talking about Michael Jordan. Ooh, 6-6, dude. He's unbeaten, best winner in sports history. The guy retired for 2 years. The guy was a gambling addict. The guy was a douchebag. He had cool shoes, though. Everybody liked him. His terrible personality, they marketed that. Competitive edge. You know what? I mean, give or take. I think LeBron's a better basketball player. I think I'd take LeBron one-on-one. I really do. I think he would have shut down Jordan. I think he would have had a triple-double against those Bulls teams. And, everyone's like, oh my God. If LeBron would have led those Cavs teams to a game against the Bulls, and he would have averaged like 41, 16, and 3, or 13, and they would have been like, oh, nope, LeBron sucks. He lost to the Bulls. So that's sort of the life he's living. That's about as far as I go in that debate. We will talk more about other stuff come Monday. A lot of big news. We're going to talk about Andy Dalton's first performance as the Cowboys quarterback. Can he turn them around? Will they be able to continue? I mean, I think they are for sure the front runners in the NFC East. So, Dallas Cowboys, playoff team, 6-10, maybe next week. We're going to get into it. I'm going to either be really happy on Monday or really upset. And I'm going to be really happy next week after Monday regardless, because next week Ohio State football is back. And that means my life is complete. That's my final infinity stone. We had basketball, we had baseball, we had the NFL. I watched the Champions League final. College football is back, so there's my final infinity stone on the gauntlet. I didn't have to trade a soul for a soul. I just had to trade a summer of not watching sports, and now I get them all back. And then the 6th Infinity Stones, all the obscure sports I watched while there was no sports on. That was the 6th Infinity Stone, obscure sports. And I got them all back, and the gauntlet's complete. So that's how we're going to close out the show, the Chris Rennie Show, an Avengers reference. You know how old that movie is now? Old. It's ruined cinema. Conversation for a different day. Thanks for coming. Everybody enjoy your weekend. Let's watch sports. Let's stick together. And let's hope that the SEC doesn't ruin it for all of us. Adios, muchachos.